please do not spend too much of time in social media.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that social media is not important. Your Instagram, your WhatsApp, your Facebook, everything is important.
Right.
Please earmark a certain amount of time for that.
Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of Jay Thakkar Show. Today we have Srinivasan Balasubramanian sir. He is Dean of Thadomal Shahani Centre for Management. Sir has been in education industry and has more than 40 years of experience in BFSI and ITES, and he's Dean of Academics at TSCFM. It's an honor to have you on the show, sir.
Thank you so much, Ajay.
So, sir, being in education industry, what is the current status of, if we can generalize it for our whole nation, the current status of education industry in India, and how can this new education policy can play a critical role in strengthening the education system?
Okay, I think thank you very much for having me on your show, Jay.
It's all pleasure,
So
sir.
first, let us understand. Earlier, we had an education policy, and that education policy has been replaced by the new education policy, that is NEP
Yes.
2020.
Yeah.
Now, earlier, if you see, the thrust of our education policy was access and equity, which means
Mm-hmm.
when the original education policy was conceived, not many people were educated, and therefore, the biggest objective, or rather, I would say, the strongest objective was to involve everybody into education. But now the thrust has changed. Now it has become access, affordability, and quality. So
Hmm.
this is a major change with the new policy as compared to the earlier policy. Do
Right.
you want me to elaborate on that
Yeah,
further?
yeah, sure, sir.
So what happens is in the earlier we had a rote system of studying, and we were interested in seeing that a student gets a degree. He has to be educated.
Hmm.
Because you must understand that India came from a 30% literacy level, and today we
Hmm.
are at 74.
Yeah.
And this particular new education policy had to come in because we were now grappling with the question of employability.
Hmm.
And we found at this point in time that our students were not really employed.
Hmm.
So the
Right.
new education policy has got a great deal of thrust towards this particular angle of employability, improving the employability quotient of a student.
Hmm. Right. So, sir, like, because after COVID, especially, there is a lot of penetration of internet in towns, tier three, tier four cities, and villages of India. And this penetration, this rate of penetration is increasing exponentially, especially after COVID. And because of this penetration, we are seeing a lot of edtech industry, edtech companies coming in the education in the education market, where people are teaching through applications, through videos, through animations, and it's been said that education in this edtech sector is going to boom in upcoming years. So how do you see the edtech playing a role in our education system, let's say down to 10 years or 20 years in future?
Oh, okay, okay. See, I perfectly agree with you that post-COVID, EdTech has taken a huge traction.
Yes.
Now, we must first understand what EdTech is.
Hmm.
It's nothing but a combination of computer hardware, software, and education. That is
Hmm.
education theory and practice. And the
Right.
idea is to facilitate learning.
Hmm. Right.
Now, EdTech industry, I think, was a very smart industry. It very quickly adapted to this digitization, and it
Hmm.
took upon itself the very important, uh, you know, the burden of educating pan India, because
Right.
everyone during this COVID pandemic had to sit at home
Right.
and there was no other choice.
Right.
And every parent was concerned how they can make up for this lost time. And this edtech really came as a sort of a boon for the entire industry,
Right.
entire education industry.
Right.
So when you want to have an edtech, you need to have digital infrastructure, the technology.
Mm-hmm.
You also need, necessary amount of people who are conversant with that. You need a
Mm-hmm.
teacher who understands that. A
Right.
student who has got to be educated as to how to
Mm.
use that application.
Right. Right.
So this is what, in short, is what the edtech is all about during the last 2 years. Now, according to
Mm.
me, when you ask me a question as to where do I see the edtech industry in the next couple of years, or say
Mm.
next 10 or 15 years, so my own take is, first, there is going to be a major shakeout happening in the
Mm.
edtech industry.
Right.
Meaning, not many, many of the edtech are not so very robust,
Mm.
and therefore they are unable to withstand the headwinds. And I think they may simply fold down. And this has
Mm.
already started happening. At the same time, I would also see parallelly consolidation is also happening.
Mm.
Where bigger players take on the smaller players,
Mm.
where bigger
Right.
players are also probably taking over players who have a brick and mortar system of education.
Mm.
And therefore, why they are taking over is because today it makes sense for the bigger player because of cheaper valuation. So that is one thing.
Mm.
Secondly, I think again, in the initial phase of business, the edtech sector may slow down and then it will consolidate and then it will log on a growth. So it's going to be a little bit of, if you see the graph, it will come slightly down
Mm-hmm.
and then consolidate and then it will take up.
Okay.
So there will be degrowth in the short term. In the medium term, it will consolidate. In the long term, it will grow. Now you may wonder why
Mm.
I'm telling you this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why is it going to grow in the long term? Then I can give you two important reasons for this.
Mm-hmm.
The first, of course, is the new frontier of language. I'm sorry, new frontier of knowledge, not language. I corrected. New frontier
Mm-hmm.
of knowledge are going to make its appearance. And it's going to be
Mm.
really, really like, for example, no one had heard about machine learning those days. No
Yeah.
one had heard about robotics those days. No one had heard
Yeah.
about artificial intelligence. So in next 10, 15 years, you could come across so many weird subjects,
Mm.
so many weird
Right.
topics.
Right.
And there are going to be very few people who will know this. And the whole
Mm.
world want to be knowing this particular topic. And therefore, EdTech is the only way to bridge this education gap.
Right. Right.
That is one thing. Now, secondly, if you see our NEP 2020,
Mm-hmm.
it has set itself a very laudable target, of
Mm-hmm.
50% gross enrollment ratio in the higher education by 2015. Sorry, 2035.
Mm.
So by 2035, if we have to achieve a 50% gross enrollment ratio in the higher education from the current 24 to 26, imagine the number of students who are going to be into
Mm.
the market.
Right.
And if these number of students come into the market, you definitely need infrastructure.
Right.
And I'm sure that it will be impossible to create that kind of infrastructure within
Mm.
next 15 years. First of all,
Mm.
it may not be feasible.
Mm.
And I think it is also not doable, basically. And
Mm.
therefore, what happens? The edtech comes in and they would bridge the gap. So
Mm.
online is the option and edtech firm is the answer.
Mm. Right. Right. True. And also, like being a student myself, I have
Okay.
like there's always a sense of language gap when we have a geographical change in learning. For example, I studied my whole school in Gujarat, and now I'm in Dehradun for my higher education. So there's a
Okay.
you can notice that there's like the way of speaking has changed. People use different slangs, so that it becomes slightly difficult for me to understand what a teacher is saying initially. After a certain time we can get used to it, but initially it gets a little bit difficult to understand what the teacher is telling us, in to understand, to make us understand things in much more simpler manner. Whereas in edtech we have a lot of visualization as well, we have a lot of animations and graphics, which I think bridges that gap a lot. Because in words, like I'm a physics student, in words I cannot say that
Okay.
okay, there is a light year is this much. I can only share it through numbers. But if I have a visualization of okay, this is a one light year, this is the distance and all of this, it makes it much more easier for me to understand and grasp that concept. And
Concept.
yeah, and when it comes, like for me, what I wish is the merge of edtech and the offline infrastructure which we have currently, and which we are going to develop in future as well. Because we also have the problem, which like you said, as number of students will increase, we need more number of teachers to come there and educate children. And for that we also need quality teachers. We and to merge the quality education with a teacher, one teacher can teach to a very large scale of students, because the help of graphics and animation now, where one teacher has the capacity to teach, let's say, around 100 student at a time, because of that a teacher can scale to 1000 students. And with help of graphics, that
Absolutely.
barrier of understanding, that barrier of not being able to understand the language and slangs, the general slangs of that geographical area, that will bridge a lot. That's how I, as a student, I wish that that could be a good future of edtech merging with the offline infrastructure which we have.
Okay. Okay. I think I have a slightly different take on that.
Mm-hmm.
What I feel is going further, you would always have, what is called as a hybrid type of learning,
Mm-hmm.
where a teacher would be, there is a teacher who goes online and who teaches absolutely
Mm-hmm.
fine.
Yeah.
But I've also found during my last 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
getting into this online business of teaching, that to have a connect, there needs to be a physical, interaction between the student and the
Mm-hmm.
teacher.
Right. Right.
So I'll give you a very simple example. Like, for example, I think Byju's took over Akash, a
Mm-hmm.
simple example.
Yeah.
Now, Akash is actually, Akash classes, they are all physical classes. They are spread throughout India.
Yeah.
Now,
Right.
why would you ever do it when they have had a lot of valuations when they were doing purely online?
Mm-hmm.
So I think somewhere this hybrid methodology would get in. So probably the student would be taking online sessions for 15 days. Maybe one day he will come to the school or the class
Mm-hmm.
or the college. Or probably he could take online for say a week and probably come one day, meet with the teacher, probably interact with him. If he has got any queries, we talk with him. In fact, that is a kind of model that we have been doing for our BFSI sector here in Thadomal Shahani Centre for
Oh,
Management.
wow. Mm. Interesting.
So
So,
and
sir,
immediately what we do is, sorry.
yeah, yeah, continues.
So what we do here in Thadomal Shahani, we have centers in, Indore, Pune, Vadodara, Ahmedabad,
Oh, wow.
Nasik. So we have a hybrid room here where students from Mumbai come here in Mulund campus, that
Mm-hmm.
is in Mumbai. Then students from Indore will be going to our Indore campus.
Mm.
Students from Pune will go to our Pune campus. Students from Vadodara will go to Vadodara campus. And here
Hmm.
the teacher is teaching, and the connect is also established.
Hmm.
The domain expertise also is a person who actually gives a lecture from this particular place. So
Hmm.
that's how it works. And I think this has been a reasonably successful experiment, because we have found that after we started this, the kind of connect between the teacher and the student has actually fortified, has increased.
Right. Interesting. And sir, being a teacher, you might have gone and taught a lot of students, and every student has a different kind of personality altogether. So
Yeah.
how, like, what's an I'm always interested in understanding that how a person is able to deal with multiple personalities at a time. And I think being a teacher, that is, you have the highest exposure of meeting and handling multiple personalities together through a long course of time. And I just want to know how's that experience, because I'm always interested in meeting new people and understanding what their mindset is, how they think, how they work, and that is one of the reason I have begun with this podcast 2 years back. So I would love to know your experience as a teacher when you go and talk and teach to different personalities as students, and how do they interact? How do you understand what's the common ground?
Okay. So I think here we need to distinguish between offline and online, basically.
Yeah.
So when we are doing it offline, what happens is we have the advantage of the immediate connect with the student,
Hmm.
and we can actually change our methodology of teaching based on our impressions of what is happening in the class, right?
Hmm.
So offline, it may not be a great challenge because the teacher sees all the students,
Hmm.
he is able to immediately react.
Right.
And likewise, the student also. For example, I'll tell you, this is a kind of example which I give to all my students. If a student in the class, say, scratches his head or is not paying attention, I can immediately see him and I can correct
Hmm.
him.
Right.
Now, this sort of a luxury, I don't have it on online.
Hmm. Right.
Because in the online, I'm just going to see his passport sized video. That's all, nothing beyond that.
Right. Right.
And what is he doing there? I have no clue.
Hmm.
So he could be actually playing with a mobile, and he may be pretending to be, be interested in this.
Right.
So what we do? So that becomes a very, very great challenge for us.
Hmm.
Now, how do we, see that his attention is kept in the particular class? So what we do is we devise, first of all, activities.
Hmm.
So activities automatically gets a person's interest. And secondly, we ask, random questions. For example,
Hmm.
I'll give you a very simple example. If in my laptop I can at one given point of time see 30 students. So I could pick up one student, hey, you there, calling out his name. Say, hi Ritu, what do you think about this particular question?
Hmm.
And suddenly move on to somebody else who is in the end of the tile, end of that particular video tile. I can ask her. So that way we ensure that there is some sort of an
Hmm.
engagement which a student has. It is difficult. I'm not saying that it's going to be easy. Online
Yeah.
teaching is a very difficult thing.
Right.
And here you need to understand the psychology of the students also. See, what
Hmm.
happens is many of the students, they take this from their residence
Yeah.
and they
Right.
have the comfort of their residence. So there the
Hmm.
mother is cooking, the sisters are moving about, the brother is making noise, and from outside the noise comes.
Right.
So in this particular scenario, to get the attention of the student becomes a real challenge.
Hmm. Right.
So what I tell them is, I tell them I know that you are in a very challenging situation. I do agree to that, but you must consciously see that you pay attention in the class.
Hmm.
And I would say that please do not show your photograph. I am not interested in seeing your handsome faces. I am interested in seeing your face. And if
Right.
you want to excuse yourself, just put it on the chat box and then come and resume after 2 or 3 weeks. For whatever
Hmm.
reasons you're going, it's perfectly all right. So what you have to do is you have to give a little bit of liberty to them. At the same time, hold them. Not in such a manner,
Hmm.
otherwise there will be a dropout issue. We do not want that also. Because
Hmm.
today's students are, they are very clear cut in their understanding as to what they want and what they do not want.
Hmm. Right.
So it's a challenge, no doubt about it.
Right. 100%. So, sir, uh, having this vast career in education system and being dean of TSCFM, what do you think how a student should think on upskilling themselves? Because right now, as we see that there's a lot of competition in employability itself. Many students are into startups, and there's competition in even in startup as well. Investors are looking for only those startups which they can trust on, that I'll get some result on. And even in employability, companies are looking for top person who has all the skill set available. So how can a student perceive the world in a sense where they can understand I want to upskill, and how can they upskill themselves?
I think your question is a very wonderful question, and it's also very, very challenging to answer that also. So, first of all, I think your question itself has got three subset questions. What is upskilling?
Hmm.
Why must you upskill? And
Right.
how you must upskill? These are the three questions that I need to answer to a student. And if he is convinced about all these three answers to these three questions, then you can be sure that I am a successful teacher.
Hmm. Right.
So now the question is, what is upskilling? Now, I would first, educate the student and tell him that, see, look here, you need to upskill because you are going to add value to your existing skill. You could be
Hmm.
learning new additional skills. And technically, you are going to be learning those skills which are relevant and which is required, which means this is going to improve your employability quotient, which will
Hmm.
make you more easily employable so that you
Right.
are able to transit from the campus to the corporate. That is going to be my
Hmm.
the importance of upskilling is something that which I'll tell him.
Right.
Now I'll also tell him why you must upskill. I told
Hmm.
him what is upskilling. I'll tell him why you must upskill. You
Hmm.
must upskill because it provides you with a different career options.
Hmm.
It gives you an edge in this competitive environment. It gives you an edge over your colleague. It
Right.
helps you to progress in your career.
Right.
And not only that, by upskilling, you are able to adapt yourself to the changes in the industry. And
Right.
lastly, of course, you can add this into your CV.
Hmm. 100%.
So I have answered why you must upskill. And then
Right.
I now have to provide him with a way in how he is going to upskill.
Hmm.
So
Right.
my mantra to all my students has been become forever a learner. You have
Hmm.
to be always a learner.
Right.
Learn and be conversant with technology because that is the great career differentiator.
Hmm. Right.
In today's world, there are a lot of options. I would say that this particular generation is very, very lucky as compared to my generation because of the options you have.
Right.
And you could learn your skills either on your own and gain formal qualification. You can learn anything in a budget
Hmm.
friendly, cost effective, and convenient manner.
Right.
And there are also massive open online courses, digital
Hmm.
skills learning platform. So you have a lot of opportunities for upskilling.
Right.
You just need that mind, that inclination. and you're there.
Right. And also, sir, for like from my own experience of having conversations with my colleagues, friends, and students from other universities, is that also we um, to understand why we need to upskill. There's a very important to understand what value do we exactly add, because as you said, there is a lot of opportunity, and this lot of opportunity creates a lot of confusion for us. Like, what should we go? And I'm interested in this, I'm interested in that, I'm interested in that as well. So what do I select? What value should I exactly add so that everything goes in line, uh, which makes me more credible, or more employable than my competitive friends. And how should one student understand that solve that confusion?
So I think probably everyone here would agree that each and every one of us are adding value to are adding value in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a very simple case. If you were to look around and if you were to see your friends, they are your friends because you are adding value to their life, either
Hmm.
emotionally or through intelligently. Somewhere you are
Right,
adding value.
right, right.
So this value add principle is existing throughout. In fact, I tell in my class that between two daughters which a mother has, a daughter who helps the mother in the kitchen
Hmm.
gets a better treatment than a daughter who doesn't. That's because the
Hmm.
other daughter is adding value, is helping her mother in
Hmm.
the kitchen. So
Right.
likewise, when you come to the corporate, if there is a manager and he's going to take a person, interview a person, he is
Hmm.
going to first see whether he is be able to add value to this particular organization.
Right.
Now, the only way you can know is by his credentials.
Right.
Has he studied? Does he have a certificate? Does he know coding? Is he good in digital
Right.
skills? Once he comes in, I mean, that becomes a passport for entry at least. So
Right.
I believe that every student has to be sure what value he would like to add,
Hmm.
depending upon what that value is going to add to his passion. So passion is
Hmm.
very closely related to his value add principle.
Right. Right.
And that way it should be able to you should be able to solve this equation, I think.
Yes.
And I
100%.
personally believe that this new generation is absolutely very intelligent. They know everything. They just need, sort of a push, and they will do it.
Yeah. 100%, sir. Sir, how was this whole conversation for you? If you have
Conversation was
uh, any advices for youngsters?
yes. I think our my simple advice to all the students when they are in this journey of upskilling and getting into news is please do not spend too much of time in social media.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that social media is not important. Your Instagram, your WhatsApp, your Facebook, everything is important.
Right.
Please earmark a certain amount of time for that. Now, I
Right.
know it's going to be very difficult. So, I will tell you the type of advice which I have been giving to my students. And probably if it is going to be good for you, please go ahead.
Sure.
So, I tell all my students to please download some of the important news-based apps, like for example, Economic Times app, Business
Hmm.
Line app, moneycontrol.com app, or any app which is, which can give information, which can give knowledge.
Hmm.
And I tell them to read this from their smartphone.
Hmm.
And I tell them that you need to follow just one single important principle.
Hmm.
You are definitely going to see your WhatsApp messages. You will be going to
Right.
Facebook, and you will definitely be seeing going to your Instagram account also.
Right.
So
Right.
all I request you all is the first time you go to WhatsApp and read a message, go immediately back to Economic Times, read some news. The
Nice.
next time you go to Instagram, come back, read Business Line. The next time you go to Instagram, come back and read Facebook, sorry, come back and read Money Control. So that way you are, fully aware of what is happening in your environment, and you'll become a very, very responsible citizen, because the citizen is supposed to know what is happening around.
Right.
So you will know what is happening in the market because you're going to be seeing Money Control. You will know what is happening you have the economic and the financial news from the Economic Times, and you have all the political news and economic news from Business Line. Or you could have you could even download Times of India. You could even download a Gujarati paper. You could even download a Marathi paper. What
Right.
I want the student is to be aware of what is happening around us.
Right. Right.
That's the only kind of what do you call a direction which I tell them that please follow this, and I'm sure that you will be good.
I'll personally use this right now.
Really? Oh, thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much, sir. Sir, it's been an honor to have you on the show. I really hope that the young people like me who are watching this and listening this will get a lot of value and a lot of guidance to brighten their future uh, and do something for this country.
So, okay, thank you so much, Jay. It was wonderful to be on your show, and through you, I would
Thank you.
wish all the students out there listening to this podcast all the very best. India needs you. The future of India is very bright. The next 15, 20 years, I think we are going to make it. We have already crossed being the
Sure.
fifth largest economy in the world, and by 2035 we will cross more than 15 trillion
Sure.
dollars. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of opportunity for all of you. Make use of it. Thank you so much. Take care.
100%,
Bye
sir.
bye.
Thank you so much, sir.